Hi there.
Thank you.
How's it going? I'm Zach.
Rami.
Rami.
Hi.
Thanks for having us. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for doing this.
I'm glad to be here. I'm a big fan of Mr. Robot. Are you guys big fans of Mr. Robot? Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Zachary Quinto.
Likewise, of him.
You're like, wait, no, I was actually
wait a
saying
minute.
myself,
What?
but I'll cover that up.
I love that this is mostly a room full of actors, right? So we all have a lot in common, and I feel like it's a great place to start a conversation. So Rami, where were you not when you got this job, but like, what was your work?
My state of mind.
Yeah, like what was your work life and your mental life like when this came along, and what was the experience for you of getting this job?
That's a great question, because I remember where I was when I was reading the script. I was, just in the usual spot in my home where I tend to read every script. I think is like a little sanctuary zone by a window, the chair that I'm always in. It's like, this is the spot where I feel creative, and I want creative things to come when I read them. So I was there physically, and the state of mind. I had just, I think, finished. Not finished, but in between jobs, and maybe had a couple months off after doing an indie film, and it was a small part in a film, and I thought, I could actually go through the rest of my days just doing these types of roles and be happy. And so this role, showed up where it was, almost commanding the entire series, and that's what I was told was going to happen for the first season. It was a bit threatening at first, because, it's a tall order. It's as much as you think as an actor, oh, I want this, I want it bad, I've wanted it for so long, and then you see how daunting it could be when you're actually faced with having the opportunity. It's one of those, fight or flight moments.
And did you audition for it?
I did, yeah.
So you went through a typical process of meeting Sam and
yeah,
creatively. So you came at it creatively, obviously, because that's the interesting thing about a situation like this. There's no way to know what a phenomenon it would become, right?
Exactly.
You approached it creatively.
Creatively, I thought, wow, this is great on paper, but I thought how much of it would realistically be achieved. It was very progressive in what it was saying. I hadn't read anything that was that forward thinking in a long, if ever. I don't think I ever have. And then to think it was, coming from the USA Network, which, prior to this show, wasn't really representative of things like Mr. Robot. Mm-hmm. So that worried me. Mm-hmm. And so I really thought for a second, I said, I dig this, but I just didn't know if it, you
had misgivings. Did you have misgivings about the tone of the show or the ambition of the show and the ability for USA to facilitate that?
That's exactly what it was. Well, not for their ability. I just didn't know if that's the direction they were going to go in.
Right.
I knew they could do it if they wanted to. It was just, would they want to?
And would you say that this was like something that you were like, oh yeah, I'll audition for that and that would be cool? Or did you feel like, this is something that I have to do? I have to do this, or I'd be happy to do this. Like, where did it fall in your range of like...
I'll be honest, I was a little bit worrisome about being tied to a contract for that many years, because I did have enough confidence to think deep down inside, I'll be okay somehow. Maybe I won't be making, huge paychecks, but I can survive. And I wasn't opposed to doing, a multiple year contract on a television show. I was just apprehensive of where the show might go. And that's what worried me. Mm-hmm. And then I sat and talked to Sam and talked to producers and the network. And They were all very straight up about what the aesthetic for the show would be, the story they wanted to tell. USA was, as we've all seen now, very forward with allowing us to do exactly, what we wanted and pushing the envelope. So,
and was it appealing to you to know that Sam would be so, like, actively involved, right? Not just from a distance, but actively involved in the writing, the directing, and sort of throughout? Did that give you a sense of confidence?
It did. I mean, I didn't know him that well auditioning, so I was like, I have no idea what this guy's gonna do.
Right.
And when you look at Sam, he's very tall and has glasses, and has this formidable look to him, but he also has a very bookish look as well. So I don't know how artistic his, I was judging a book by its cover essentially, and then I got to know him and sat down and was like, oh, you're very cool, you're very smart, you're intelligent, you have a very, very specific vision for where this show's gonna go, and that did give me a sense of peace in going into it.
And what would you say were the qualities of Elliot that you responded to, that you felt were close to you, and what were the qualities of the character that you felt were a little bit outside of your comfort zone, and what was the balance for you?
That's a great question, Zach. I know there are times when I wish I had some greater strength when it came to certain decisions making, the whole decision making process, and I was a little, I wish I was less anxious about certain things. And when push comes to shove with me, I have this reserve where I can step up and really put everything else aside and do whatever it takes to complete something or find some way to do what I think is admirable or fulfills something that I think deserves to be fulfilled. But there are parts of me that are, anxiety ridden like him at times, and who isn't? That I could connect with, right? Especially actors. Not all of us. I saw somebody go, not me. There's that, there's this, sense of that profound alienation that he has. And I wouldn't say that, I feel alienated or ostracized that deeply, but growing up, I could feel that a little bit because I felt different because of the things I wanted to do, the people I hung around with, just always felt different in that respect. And then his loneliness I could connect to, the things he says about the world that I find really provocative and poignant at this day and age. Those things I really connected to.
You were living here when you got it, or were you living in New York?
I was living here.
You were living here. So what was it like for you to, in a practical way, so you get the job? Was it it was not a pilot, was it straight to series, or you did a pilot?
No, we had to do the pilot.
You did the pilot.
That's the other worry. It's like you put so much work into just getting that job, then you do it.
I have a friend who did literally 10 pilots in a row over the course of 10 years. None of them got picked up. Then she got on a series that she was phenomenal on, and the show was great, and it went 2 seasons, and that was, it's like that momentum, and you get somewhere, and you finally get past that hurdle that you think, anyway. So yeah, I totally get that, the pilot sort of conundrum, which has obviously changed as a result of the kind of leveling of the playing field that all of these platforms of distribution have, digitally kind of erased the boundaries that we've all come to expect for so long. Anyway, different conversation.
No, I love that.
But so
it's very informative.
So you get the pilot.
Truly.
So you get the pilot. So you shot the pilot in New York. You shot the whole thing in New York, I know.
Yeah.
So that was cool, right? Were you psyched about that?
We were talking initially about. There was this talk about us possibly going to Toronto.
The old Toronto switcheroo.
Yeah. And then we shaved 3 episodes off because New York obviously costs more to shoot in.
Yeah.
So
Thank God.
yeah.
So you went to New York for the pilot, then the show gets picked up. So now you have to move to New York, right? How did that factor in? Like how in your life was that exciting? Was it disruptive? Was it unsettling? Are you easy that way? Can you travel and go?
I
wherever?
am easy that way. Yeah.
That's good.
I figure, we're always it's a lifestyle that promotes change. I mean, we're always going from one thing to another. I mean, our life is constantly just uprooted in not only in just picking up and moving, but in roles we play and even roles that we audition for, or things we read. It's like we have to be able to make a switch in a heartbeat, and so I've kind of found that I can lend that to my physical body, actually moving places too. And I love New York. I've loved New York since the first time I visited. I saw plays there when I was a kid, and I was mesmerized by one, acting on stage, and 2, the city as a whole. I'm a type of guy who likes to go out and sit at a bar and just chat up anybody and have conversations, and it's maybe not as easy to do that here. So I look forward to that when I'm there.
It's much more sort of accessible in a way as a city, I think, too. What plays did you see when you were a kid? Do you remember?
Yes, I saw Alan Cumming. Alan Cumming in what was it?
Cabaret.
It was a Cabaret.
Yeah.
It was the first time he did it, and I was like, "Who the fuck is this guy?" That was like shockingly good performance.
Yeah, it was.
I was like, "I'll never be that good."
Both times around.
What about you?
I didn't see him do it the first time. I saw him do it the second time, but. The play that I remember, I saw a lot of. Well, I didn't. The first time I went to New York was when I was 17, and then I went when I was in college. But the play that I'll never forget seeing. There are 2 plays that I'll never forget seeing. One was "This Is Our Youth" with Mark Ruffalo and Missy Yeager and Tommy Sadowski, and the other was "Sideman" with Edie Falco. That shit was bananas. I mean, I literally walked for like 30 minutes after I saw that play, and before I realized where I was. She was so incredible. Anyway,
as you do after a good play, you just it's like, leave me alone, or let's go someplace and talk about this. But it's so hard to get out of a show and just move on with your life, and that stuff just lives with you for a little bit
Whitney
longer.
Houston here. Remember with the mic cord? No? Okay. So then then the pilot gets picked up. So now you have this job that is exciting. And the pilot, what was the experience of that? Did you feel an immediate sense of connection with Christian and the cast? Did it feel like it? Was there a sense while you guys were doing it like this was something, or?
There definitely was that happening. I mean, it was the attention to everything prior. I mean, we came in and we did a little bit of rehearsal, which we don't do anymore. There's sometimes I feel like, we needed to rehearse the scene, and other times I'm glad we go in blind. But yeah, initially we were, I remember hearing talks, like extensive talks about the camera package that we were going to use and how the sound was going to work, the look of it, and then I saw the actors that Sam was choosing, and I thought I initially was not I guess the conventional choice, I would say. So I was like, that's cool. I mean, I hope he's not just doing it because I'm unconventional, but then I thought, I saw who he was putting together. I thought Christian was, it was a great choice in that Sam respected his body of work and knew he would, really bring something special. And they had talked about, Christian really digging into this and bringing all that he's capable of. And he's obviously a very formidable, talented guy. And the rest of the cast, as it was assembled, I was like, oh man, she's really good. She's really good. Portia Doubleday, Carly Chaikin, all those actors, Martin Wallstrom, great people coming in. Michael Gilles, who plays Gideon, was phenomenal. We all just, every time so many other actors I'm not naming, but they're all so talented, and they all went through a pretty rigorous process to get there. So when you see that level of work, being put into a show prior to us even, picking up a camera, something special is happening. And then we're shooting in New York, and you could tell that the people on our crew really had some very strong artistic sensibilities. And once I saw the way some of the opening frames, either on the subway or wherever we were being set up. I was like, he's true. He told me, there were going to be some kind of obscure, wonky-looking shots, and done with purpose. Just to kind of mimic, the certain disenfranchised, alienated feel that the show was conveying.
Yeah.
And then I thought, wow, there's a very strong sensibility and vision for this show. And, if it's done well, it could have legs. Or it's a pilot that just comes off like an art house film and we're all screwed.
Well, that didn't happen. So are you the kind of actor, are you interested in that stuff? Are you into... Because I wasn't at first, and then I found I'm much more interested now in lenses and camera packages and all of that kind of more technical stuff. Are you inclined that way as an actor, or are you more immersive from a character standpoint and you let the DP and the crew deal with that stuff mostly?
Well, yeah, no, I'm not. In the same way that the DP's not coming up to me and giving me line readings, I'm definitely not telling him to pull up
No, I don't mean
35.
telling him what to do, but I mean
Listen, don't you want to capture the scope of this and make sure we have all the background and focus on an 18 or something? No,
that would work. There's actually an app which I got called Artemis, which is a very interesting lens app, which sort of lets you. I don't know. I just find it
full
interesting.
disclosure, he does have some stock in Artemis.
Artemis, lenses for a new generation. I just find that stuff fascinating, but some actors are not interested in it. Some actors like to protect themselves from the more technical side of things and immerse themselves in only the sort of character perspective. I just wonder about that for people that
I do. I'm very intrigued. I mean, there are moments when I know it's time to step away from a scene and go away and really prepare for the next one. Or, there are times when I've felt I really need to go be alone and work on this and, stay in the moment and really put myself through hell just to make sure I'm still in hell when the camera starts rolling. And then there have been other times when I'm like, you can do this. You don't need to go to those lengths all the time. You're going to hurt yourself pretty badly, I think, psychologically, emotionally. So, I find myself at times when I think I got something a little bit more covered and feel more confident, then I'll stay on set, and that's when I'm, very intrigued on what's happening. I kind of immerse myself in something else. So I don't.
It's also the luxury of being on a show that does end up sort of lasting. Is there's more time for the variety of that experience.
Yeah.
You kind of learn your own gauge, I guess, a little bit more. I'd imagine, right?
Yeah, you do. Yeah, but I do. Yeah, I sit there and I talk to Todd Campbell, or this prolific DP. He, I should say, Sean Levy, who directed me in the Night at the Museum movies, produced Stranger Things and loved the cinematography on our show so much that he hired him.
Oh, wow.
And Tim Ives, who did our pilot, to do his show. So
Amazing.
yeah, so that was very cool. So yeah, I mean, I have that guy on set, and if I ever want to direct something, I'm like, why not sit there and pick up a few tips from him?
Yeah, totally.
You?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure. I've become more interested in it and more fascinated by the technical aspect of it and the process and the the composition, what it takes. And it's interesting because I feel like the more I've been around it, or the more I feel like I've had the opportunity to kind of observe, the more it's just taken root. I haven't necessarily sought it out, but it's become an interest that I've been drawn to anyway. So then, so this show also is like one of those like cultural touchstones, I mean, it's like, so what has your experience been with that side of it? Because I think that's, it's like anybody here in the next, like, in your life can change so quickly, right? Because I mean, you've done a lot of work. You've worked consistently. You've done, like you said, Night at the Museum, Short Term 12. I mean, you've done a lot of great independent stuff. You've worked. You haven't been lacking, and it seems from what you've said here,
not
what
as
we're
much
just
as
chatting
you, Zach,
about.
but no, it's not a competition.
Yeah, please. But that you really have, like, you found a place for yourself where you were fulfilled, and that's an amazing and challenging thing, I think, for actors at any place in their careers. I mean, it's always easier to see people that are working or that you recognize and imagine that, like, it all must be, peaches and roses and easy, but like it's not. And some actors who are working all the time are as discontent or as frustrated or insecure as anybody, as actors who have never had their first job yet. So I just find that it seems like you were already in a place where you were fulfilled, you were happy, but then you get this job that now, I mean, everybody, you can't drive 2 blocks in this city without seeing your face, like, peering out. And it's right? I mean, it's pretty amazing, and you're amazing on the show. It's like...
It's a great marketing campaign.
It is a great marketing campaign, but it's supported by great work, and I think that's really worth mentioning. It's like, you're clearly approaching this from a perspective of wanting to honor the character, honor the world, and yet it becomes this cultural phenomenon. So how's that been for you? How was it? At what point did you realize what it was? How has your life changed? That nugget of a question, How have you found that experience?
It's like just thinking about those things that I did earlier on, and for years, even though I get steady work here and there, and I would always worry, is this the last job? I think that's something that's lingered in my head for so many years, was, am I ever going to work again? I don't know why we do that. I mean, I think some of us do that. I hope I'm not the only one. But you have that thought, and then sure enough, something else comes in, and it's like, okay, but that thought still lingers. So,
it's like, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No.
I mean, it's not only does it linger, but it becomes a thing. I know for myself at times. I mean, it becomes a thing that, like, you can live in. Like, it can actually, if you give it power, it can overtake your thoughts and your life. And like, I just think it's important. Always in a room full of actors, I always think it's important to recognize that is something that never goes away, and that it's something that we all need to be responsible and accountable to ourselves for. That there has to be a sense of faith in ourselves, even if we don't feel like other people have faith in us, and surrender to the fact that, like, it's a difficult thing. Anyway, I can certainly relate to it, and I think it's important to make sure that everybody knows that that's something that's just, it follows us wherever we go, and I think no matter who you talk to at some point in their journey, people feel that way. So anyway, so you have felt that way, but then this thing happens.
Yeah, so then no, I appreciate that. I appreciate that, because it's good that we all can talk about those feelings and share them, and it's good to know you're not alone in having those feelings. But yeah, finally, I got to a point where I'm like, okay, I think I'm gonna be okay. I think it's gonna be all right. Even if I just keep doing small things in indie movies, that's gonna be all right with me. But yeah, then something like this comes along, and it's this cultural phenomenon, and it's one thing to have a character that, as an actor, I get to run the gamut of emotions and play so many different moods, and just I have so much to do on this show, so much to convey, so much to hide. It's what I call the Joker in the deck as far as roles go. you hope for one like this where you just get to play all the time, and as long as it's rooted and real, and you get to do so much research with a person like this, then there's no limiting where he can go on screen. And so that was a gift in and of itself. But then, to have moments like one that happened just the other day, I was passing a kid in New York, and he had kind of this like street cyberpunk look to him, and he passed me, and I could feel that he was about to turn around, so I turned around, and his jaw kind of dropped because he's clearly like an Elliot in the making. And so I turned around and talked to him, and I could tell he had like some social anxiety problems that the ones that Elliot kind of faces, and just to be able to relate to him in that moment and see that there was something outside of me, Rami, this character that I play, was just empowering this young man, was that's the most transcendent thing about the whole experience is. I never thought that I've always said, okay, acting's great. We can have this impact on people, and we can give them some type of respite from the hardships in their lives. But I never thought that I'd necessarily play a role that could have this type of impact on people's self-esteem, and their confidence, and kind of put feelings of being very different in terms of your mental state, or feeling just like you're not part of the social norm. You're just feeling like an outcast in a certain way, and make that not only acceptable but cool. And so that's something that's been, I think, the best part of playing this guy. It's been the most rewarding.
That's cool. We just got an email the other day from this woman who's friends with John Cho, and we just wound up the press tour for Trek, and she just sent this really lovely email about how her father nearly passed from heart issues, and when he was recovering from his surgery, they watched all the Treks from the past and all the movies, and like he pulled through, and the first thing that they did when he got out of the hospital was they went to see our movie, the last one that just came out, and they sent this picture from the movie theater with their 3D glasses on. And it was like these moments that you never expect, you never anticipate, that aren't a part of the work necessarily, but that just kind of blindside you and are really reaffirming in terms of how what we do does matter to people. It's easy to kind of trivialize. It's not solving world crises or anything, and there's plenty of those right now. So I think it's easy to kind of diminish the impact of what we do, and then you have an experience like that, and it's heartwarming, I think, in a lot of ways. What was your relationship to technology before you got involved in the show, and how has your exposure to this show changed your relationship to technology, if at all?
I used to ditch my computer class in high school, so I was just like, when am I ever going to do this? So I'm like, for years I don't even think I had a computer. I mean, and this was recent, which is sad. I was like, I can survive off of my phone. I could do the emails on that and get scripts on that, and so yeah, we weren't the best of friends for a long time, and getting this job, I was like, okay, this is the thing I'm gonna have to work on the most. So
interesting.
Yeah, I did spend a lot of time actually sitting in front of a computer and trying to increase, my typing speed and learning about coding. And I always love doing research on a role, but that aspect of it was not fun. It's just not my world. My mind doesn't work like that. I mean, you know what I mean? How are you with that?
I know what you mean. Really technologically disinclined myself.
Really?
Yeah. I've embraced it sort of just like as we all have. Like I think unconsciously, it's just become a part of all of our lives. But I can relate to you in that. And has it unsettled you at all, the themes and the nature of the show and the hacking element of it? Has that been something that has made you more cognizant or aware of our own collective vulnerability in cyberspace?
Oh, immensely. I mean, and you can talk about this too, because you just did Snowden, which...
Dude, I mean, I will never be the same.
Prism, Upstream.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, if you don't have a piece of tape over your webcam on your laptop, like immediately go home and put it on there, for real. It is really, it's something.
It is. I mean, it's phenomenal. I think how susceptible we are to having all of our information compromised.
Yeah.
We're being watched. We're being listened to. I mean, you know more than anybody. I mean, I read some of that Oliver Stone script.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
also, Glenn wrote a book called No Place to Hide, and I read that, and it was really not upsetting. It was really, because I was always very cavalier about that stuff myself. I was always like, who cares? Like, what am I gonna? And then it's like we bought a new TV, and we were putting it up, and we were like futzing with remotes, and then all of a sudden we saw ourselves on the TV in the living room, and I was like, what is going on? But there's a camera in my TV, right. And like, it just, yeah. So I just wonder about that, because it's such a cornerstone of this world, if it made you more aware of your exposure, your vulnerability, etc.
Very much so. I mean, anytime someone calls now, trying to, I guess, question me about some transaction I've had from my bank, I'm questioning them back.
Yeah, totally.
Right? I want to know who that is, because it happens. I mean, not just the one thing I've been most aware of is the social engineering. Is people sending you texts saying, can you verify this? Is the password, or you need to change your password because someone's tried to access your Google account.
Right.
Yeah.
I had this, and they do it. They make it look exactly like the emails that would actually come from the place.
Google,
and then
or Apple.
I called Apple, and I was like, I got this email, and they're like, we have no record of sending that email to you, so this is an attempt at fraud. And then it was like, so I have like 9-step verification. Like, it's such an annoyance. Like, whenever I have to like relog into my Gmail, I get like a text on my phone that I then have to like match
That's
to a pin.
That's called 2-step verification.
Turn it on tonight, you guys.
You all should be doing that.
I think that we have some questions from you all.
Also, the microphone on your
can be activated, by anybody.
So when you talk and your computer can record your voice, that can also be listened to.
Yeah, these are all.
The government's actually done this.
Yeah,
because Edward Snowden told us they did.
It's true. It's true.
Sorry, you were about to open it up.
No, I'm just, we're just talking here. I tend to be, I don't want to, because I feel like we are living in a moment where technology it's a tipping point, right? And like, I do feel like there's no going back. I think your show represents this in a lot of ways. I think what Ed Snowden did, I call him Ed, I think what Edward Snowden did represents that culturally, politically, certainly societally. But I do think that it's all representative of this larger moment that we'll look back on as a civilization and realize that we lived through, which was this tipping point where technology started to outpace our ability to keep up with it. And there's this amazing documentary called 0 Days. Is it Alex Gibney, right? That did Going Clear and made this documentary. Anybody? What? That's Nick. Yeah, that's what it's about. But Alex Gibney, I believe, is the filmmaker. I just don't want to misappropriate that. But it's
Someone's
incredible.
fact-checking
it's
that,
about,
right?
Yeah, we have no way of knowing. We have no way of finding out. But it's a documentary about, I don't know if you remember when the Iranian nuclear power plants were hacked and shut down, and like we did it, like it was America, like spoiler alert, like they basically figured that out, and they were like, cyber warfare is basically the next frontier of war, and it's alarming how all of us are implicated in it because we carry around these devices with us that like none of us really asked for, and then all of a sudden they just sort of consumed our attention and our souls. What? I don't know. But my point was, I had a point, which was that, it depends on who you ask, because I would get into these conversations a lot with Joe Gordon-Levitt, who plays Edward Snowden in the movie, and he is like a total, like, he's a technophile, and he loves technology, and I respect his love for it and his use of it, and he uses it in his creativity, and he uses it to draw people in. He has hit record, which brings people in from all over the world to like contribute to things, and it's amazing what he does with it, and I have a lot of respect for that, but I also have a lot of like fear of it myself. So anyway, it was. Thank you, my friend. Awesome. I hear you can do that on those things. Okay. So our first question comes from Nicole Blessing. Where's Nicole? Hi, Nicole.
Hi, Nicole.
How are you? Good. Thanks for your question for Rami, which is, this is a good segue. I didn't even know that. How is the technical advising done? I.e., do you have a team of advisors, and are they more involved in the process in this series than in other series?
I do have a team. It's led by Kor Adana, and he's also writing on the show now. He went from being a writer's assistant to the technical advisor to being a writer on the show. So that's kind of how our show works. It's like inside promotions, and we're we're very tight knit in that way. And yeah, he's just. He's pretty formidable in the way that he's a perfectionist in getting everything right, and that's also Sam Esmail, who's another perfectionist, checking in with him all the time, making sure everything's done to the T, because it's the first time I think you've seen coding look that authentic in a television show or film. So I think we just strive for that type of authenticity in every aspect of the show, but it's, I think, most closely monitored in the tech aspect.
Cool.
Cool.
The next question comes from Victor. Hi, Victor.
Hey, how you doing, Victor? Good to see you.
So, Rami, Victor asks, what's being your memorable moments on Mr. Robot overall? What's been your more memorable moments? It's a broad question, Victor, so could be anything, really, right?
It could be.
It could be this question.
It could be. I would say, gosh, that's hard.
Could be Carly and Portia's dub smashes.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple of those, actually. They're pretty good.
They're really
Do
good.
some good dub smash action.
That's what they're doing in the trailer while I'm trying to get ready to play Elliot.
Well, you're in every
so,
shot.
So yeah, I love them. No, it's nice respite from the seriousness of it all. But there are moments where we're doing some, I think, really special filming, like the moment in the pilot where I threw my hands up in the middle of Times Square was, an especially sweet moment. And, no one knew who we were or what we were doing at that point, so it was really easy to shoot that. Whereas when we showed up there to do, one of the scenes in the finale of season 1 where Christian throws me up against that large neon American flag, I think people, they were on to us, and we were...
What was up?
Yeah, the jig was up, and we had a crowd, and... but it was, it's still crazy to think, we're getting to shoot on, pretty iconic piece of real estate like that. And then I have to say, like, getting the critical acclaim was something that, just that, it feels great, I gotta say. It's... you're like, I don't need awards or anything like that. And we don't, but it's nice when it comes. When you're invited to the party, it's pretty special. Thank you. Thank you for helping us get there.
That sounded like the end of the talk, but it's not.
Yeah.
Daniel Litz. Hi, Daniel. Rami, can you talk about the audition experience you had when cast for the show? How many callbacks? Did you know exactly who this character was, or were you redirected? We talked about some of this, but how many times did you go in?
I went in I think 3 or 4 times, and I never felt like I had it entirely. I didn't think that I had figured him out by any means, but I also didn't think that I was going to win that role. I knew, I did the Ron's Coffee speech from the pilot, and it was like a 5-minute speech at that point, prior to it being cut. I mean, it was like twice as long as what was actually in the show. And so the first time I did it in the room, and I felt pretty good about it. And to be honest, I didn't think I could do it better. So when Sam asked me to do it again, I said, "You want me to do it again?" Because I was just walking in there, I think, trying to have a sense of confidence about it and being like, that was good enough for me to come back and see you next week, And I was like, I don't think I can do this any better. So I did that a few more times, and he directed me, and I felt in a good relationship with him. Like, he was giving really good direction, and I could.
Do you like auditioning in general?
I don't hate it. I'll tell you why I like auditioning is because if and when you do get a job that you've auditioned for, I think a large amount of the work is done by then. For me, I'm like, I feel like I've honed into something and someone appreciates it that's making some pretty big decisions here. So that's a lot, a lot of the work feels accomplished.
What about you guys? How many people like auditioning? How many people hate it? And then how many people don't have an opinion about it because they feel like that was a weird... I loved auditioning when I first started, if for no other reason than I got to act that day.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That was when I was I would wait tables until I worked the graveyard shift, and then I would get off at 7 a.m. and go home and work on my sides, and then sleep for a couple of hours, and then go to audition, and it was the highlight of my day before I had to go back.
Do you have any performances that you're like, that audition was some of the best work I've ever done and no one's ever gonna see it?
I'm sure some pilot things maybe that I felt really connected to. I don't know. I don't know. It's a good question. Do you?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I felt like I've done some. I'm the guy, I think, that is like, oh, I'm not gonna get that, and then you get it, and every time you're like, yeah, I nailed it. It's like, no.
Interesting.
Yeah, it wasn't.
I always feel like I always had a really good sense of when I did well, right? When I did what I wanted to do. But then I just remember that feeling. And in LA, it would happen in the car ride home, right? Where you were like, that was so good. So good. I'm so good. It was so awesome. And then you're driving home, and then you're in traffic, and then 20 minutes you go by, and you're like, but I would have heard something by now. But I mean, they were only going for another 45 minutes. They're probably just finishing right now. And so they're probably talking to my agent, I'll probably hear tomorrow. But if I don't hear by tomorrow for lunch, then I didn't get a call. Obviously.
And you have 15 calls into your reps as
totally. I do remember the time.
We would have called you by now.
Yeah, I do remember the point at which, after I was here for probably 2 years, where I was like, ugh, I can't call them because obviously they'd call me if they knew anything, But yeah.
When I would know I didn't get it is when, after a while, I'd start repeating the lines, trying to find a better way to do it. And the only reason I was doing that is because the way I did it was not the proper way to have done it that would have got me the job.
Oh, what we put ourselves through, right? Yeah, it's good. Sylvia. Hi, Sylvia.
Hi, Sylvia.
How did you prepare for the drugs detox scene? How different is it to break from the character once the season was shot? So, like, when you're done with the whole season, does Elliot chill with you for a while? Are you able to easily? That's a good question. I feel like everybody's different like that. So, yeah.
So for that detox, that was one, I think that and the Shayla scene after the prison were the two things I think I was, those two scenes and the scene with Christian at the very ninth episode were, I think, the hardest scene, or the scenes I was most concerned with. And I just, every single night, I think I had a thought about those three scenes throughout the course of shooting until one had passed. And then it probably still lingered somewhere in there. But the detox scene, I wanted to get right. And I didn't want to do anything that felt false. And I talked to a good friend of mine who had been through that a couple of times, and which was a hard thing to do because, it's difficult to approach someone about a really dire time in their life and just start pilfering them for, answers about it. What was this like? How hard was that? How long did you sweat? What was the sweat like? I mean, does it have a certain smell? Were you going to the bathroom? Were you vomiting? Were you shitting? What were you eating? And then I'd go up to Sam and I'd be like, this is how it's got to be. And he's like, no, you're not going to have a diarrhea scene. And I'm not kidding. For about a week, I pestered him about sitting on the toilet and making sure, because my friend was like, you don't know how many times, once you're detoxing, all that, everything just starts to, sorry.
It's taking a turn.
Yeah, taking a turn.
Our conversation.
But yeah, just, that whole detox in the bed we shot in one day. Maybe even less than a day, and we were crammed for time, so it was a scene I had thought about for so long, and I'm like, you are not gonna move on this quickly every time. And then one of the really big emotional beats moved to earlier in the day with me having like 10 minutes notice, and I was like, you can't do this. But then that aggression I just took into the moment and was like, look, dude, you're either gonna get in your head about this or you have to find a way to redirect that kind of anger. And I did, and there were times when I would ask for more takes, and there were times when I had to have enough confidence in what Sam and the editor had to say. We were going to move on. Otherwise, I was going to not only jeopardize other scenes I had that day, but you got to leave enough room for the other actors, who have other scenes. Otherwise, it's not fair, if you... Because I get a lot of leeway because I, play the lead on the show. You have to know when you can take advantage of that and when it's not, your place too.
That balance is key. It's true. It's good to know. It's good to be aware of. Not every number one on the call sheet is aware of that. Are you? So
Christian's number one. But
Christian's number one.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. No.
Okay. Christian would kill me if that was true. Okay, so you're done with season 2 now. You just finished shooting, right?
Yeah.
I haven't started watching season 2 yet, so I'm excited to dive into it. But so you have how much time do you have off before you go back? Because it's now going onwards, obviously. Could you be that good? Sorry, guys. No, we're gonna finish it after 2. So how much downtime?
You never know. See, even after all this, I'm like, are we getting a season 3?
Yeah.
And then it just came out the other day
that
I
just read that you are.
Yeah. So I was like, but you still even no. Okay. Thank you. We finished like what 3-4 weeks ago, and we won't start. I have no idea when we'll start again. I have no idea. I think we usually start in April, but things might change because I know Sam wants to have just enough time to really, just get his thoughts down in the way that it takes to write a, entire season of television.
Yeah, right.
I think there's
And keep that integrity and keep
Yeah.
it intact moving forward.
Yeah.
And you're gonna do something on your break.
I'm about to start doing a remake of Papillon.
Well, let me ask you: was there a time at which you almost didn't do the movie, like you were gonna do it, and then you
Do it. You're like, boo. Oh, I was worried.
But was there a time when you were gonna do it and then you almost didn't do it?
Yeah. How do you know that?
Because here's a good story about being actors, right? So I get
Oh,
a call from my
shit.
agent one day. They're like, "We're sending you a script. It's called Papillon. It's a remake of this amazing book, and we want you to look at this role." And so I read the script, and I was like, "It's awesome. I love it so much. Like totally, like I'll totally sit down with this. I'd love to do it." They lost an actor. He fell out of it. So like the role's open, and like here we really want you to take a look at it. And I was like, "It's great. Like who do I talk to? Where do I? I'll totally." And then he came back onto the project, so I was doing the fucking job.
Don't clap.
No, you have to clap. It's the beauty. It's actually really, I actually believe that it is really truly, those are the things about what we do that like, it is always a reminder that we are where, what? That, oh, that's exactly why, you're right. No, but it's a really fantastic project. So you're going to do that, and where do you go, and when do you
Were
go?
you
How long
actually
do you-
thinking you were gonna do the role? By the way,
We can talk about that.
Well,
Luckily,
I have no
didn't,
clue.
Luckily, I didn't walk down the path very far. But I do think actually that is. I know I bring it up only because I do feel like those are the kinds of moments as actors that we have to embrace. We have to be supported. There's room for all of us. Do you know what I mean? There's the reminder that like we are where we're meant to be. We're working on what we're meant to work on. We have to pursue the things with as much passion and as much enthusiasm as we possibly can, and then let them go and like give them over to something that's bigger than us, because there's always something like that at play, I feel. Anyway, but I'm excited to know that you're doing it. I think you're going to be fantastic, and it's a great script. It's really good and exciting. It's
Yeah.
a cool kind of, so different from Mr. Robot.
It is.
Right?
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, no, it is. It is. And the director's great. His name's Michael Noer, and he actually, he's just so passionate and has ideas about really specific ideas about the story he wants to tell, and that's what really solidified it for me. Is he's another one of those guys with a very particular vision that he wants to see executed.
That's great. And what are your, wrapping up now, like what are your goals? Is there anything you'd like to see happen? And are you in touch with Sam about the direction in which you want the show and Elliot to go? Are you feeling like you have now just a sense of real innate trust in him and his vision, like you're saying? Or are you increasingly involved in it now that you're, getting into it more for a third season?
He's been so great with me in that he respects what I think I contribute to the show, not just as an actor, but I think, I don't know, maybe I'm under a delusion, but that he thinks I have a pretty good eye about storytelling as well. So it's not like I'm giving him I do give him notes on the scripts, but I'm never in the room telling him the direction Elliot's gonna go in. I think I just try to find. I try to hone in on where he's going and make certain alterations when I see something that I don't think coincides with the guy that I know as Elliot, because he told me at one point, he's like, "You're gonna know Elliot a lot better than I do, so your voice is very important to me. What you have to say about him and his trajectory is something I'm always here to consider." And it takes he's a brilliant guy and a confident guy who can be that collaborative, because there's so many other people who would just be like, "You're just the actor." And
it's a great showrunner who respects the contribution of the actors that he entrusts with the characters that he creates, and it's a great actor who takes that responsibility seriously and approaches it with a kind of integrity that allows that collaboration to manifest itself into a show that's clearly as fully realized as this one is. So congratulations on really wonderful work and on a really great spirit. And, I wish you all the best with the show, with everything else you're doing. It's great to watch, and it's great to see you handle it, as easily as you are and as openly as you are. And I think it's refreshing for all of us to be encountered with that. It's cool. So, and good luck with all the award season coming up, and we'll all be rooting for you.
Yes.
And
thank you.
Thank you for letting me ask you questions. Really fun.
Thank you, guys. And I got to thank you, man. One, for doing this, but all the contributions you've made. I mean, you played some of the most, you've done two of the, I'd say, most iconic plays of the last century, and got to play some really formidable characters that also had a lasting impact on our society, not only from an artistic perspective, but in a way that has moved the ball forward for a lot of people. Appreciate that. All your contributions, from the jobs that you've chosen to take have been jobs that I think a lot of actors aspire to have, and they're ones that can be showy, but also have something really strong to say behind them. And I think that's something that you always bring to your work. That's an element that sets you above a a lot of others.
Well, that's too kind. Thank you, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks
as
for being
always.
here, everybody.
Thank you.